All right, guys, for today's video, we're going to take a look at this example that I gave. It says, write an equation for the following exponential functions table. Well, on this table, we do have some missing information. We don't know what the y-intercept is. We also don't know what the second value is. If we knew either of these, it'd be pretty easy to find the answers because we would just take 24 and divide by the y-intercept, whatever goes here, or we would take 384 and divide by whatever goes here, find the multiplier, and then work our way backwards. Unfortunately, we don't know either of these though, so we have to use a different technique. It's actually the technique that we've been covering on the last couple of slides. So I did say to try it on your own, and I'm hoping that many of you did just fine with it. If you don't, however, you're going to learn just now. So let's start with what we do know. We do know that we have an exponential function because it says it right here, which means we're going to be using the equation we've been using this whole week, which is y equals a times b to the power of x. We also know that we have our first term, which has a y value of 24, and our third term, which has a y value of 384. This gives us two different xy coordinates, 1, 24, and 3, 384. Let's go ahead and use what we know here and plug them into a function. So again, we know that our function is a times b to the power of x. Well, let's go ahead and write in our functions with our xy coordinates. So in the first one, we had 1 and 24. On the second one, we had 3 and 384. Now, if you read through my PowerPoint presentation, sorry, my Google Slides presentation, you know that we always want to put the larger numbers on top. So let's put our 384 and 3 into our first problem. So y is 384 and x is 3. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put that over our second equation, which was 24 and 1. So 24 is equal to a times b to the power of 1. Okay, now if you remember from the example before, we had to divide these out. So let's go ahead and imagine what would happen if we divided these. Now we have our numbers over our numbers, our a's over our a's, and our b's over our b's. So we're all set here. We know that a divided by a is going to cancel out. So what if we just went ahead and did that? And oops. Well, now we're left with 384 over 24 and b cubed over b1. Well, this is actually pretty easy. We can take 384 and divide it by 24 by just using our calculator. So 384 divided by 24, well, that's just the number 16. Let's actually write that down below. Okay, now we just have b cubed divided by b to the first. Well, remember, when we divide exponents, we're actually going to subtract them. And we know that 3 minus 1 is 2, so let's call this b squared. Well, now we have b squared equals 16. Well, many of you could probably do this in your head, but if you can't, we can just square root b squared to get b and square root 16 to get 4. So let's actually go ahead and write that down below. 4 is equal to b. Well, this is wonderful because now we have b. We can use this information to solve for a. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, if we take a look at this, we're going to have to create a new equation where our x and y are plugged in along with our b. So let's go ahead and do that. We have 1 for our x and 24 for our y. Okay, so we know that our b term is 4. We're going to use our first one, which was 1 for our x and 24 for our y. So 1 for our x, 24 for our y. All right, well, I'm pretty sure we all know that 4 to the power of 1 is just 4. So what if we didn't even have that 1 there anymore? We just got rid of it. And we also know that a times 4 is the same thing as 4 times a, which is just 4a. So let's actually change that to be 24 equals 4a. Well, most of you could probably do this in your head, but let's go ahead and divide out the 4 to get a alone. We'll divide by 4 on both sides. So 4a over 4 is just a, but 24 divided by 4 is going to give us 6. Therefore, a has to equal 6. Let's write that down. And now we have our a. We know that our b is equal to 4, our a is equal to 6, and we can use those to create an equation. Let's do that right now. With the exponential equations being y equals a times b to the power of x, where a is equal to 6 and b is equal to 4, our equation is y equals 6 times 4 to the power of x. This is our equation, and this concludes this video. Thanks.